Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back here at Big Gold Belt Media for another recap review show for BMF episode 6 coming out of season 3, where this episode is titled Casualties of War. This episode is written by Garen Thomas and directed by Radium Chunk. The boys are back, and we're here to break it all down. With that being said, hey Lou, it's just crazy how, like, you know, if I make predictions and I get it right, I don't get credit, right? This is crazy.
Hold on, what prediction you make?
I said Brian. I said he's out of there. I said he's definitely out of there after this. They got to be at wits end with the kid, and I did agree after I said it, but I just stood 10 toes down. I did agree. I was like, cops don't get fired, so I was like, that was kind of like a reckless statement, but my man got he got the boot. But here nor there, a lot of different things happen on in this episode. We're gonna get right into it. No news, nothing exciting to talk about. Just this episode. One, I think you should address your relationship status, since you got folks coming here to obviously get that information. Do you want to take some time to?
Well, let me give y'all the best T line I could say. I'm as single as you need me to be. Oh man, yeah. But shout out to people of that nature. And I'm hosting this week. We got the word how y'all was irritated that nature kept on interrupting me in the comments.
Now I got put in timeout.
So this week I'm gonna lead the way, and we're gonna start off with the way the episode opens, with the funeral of Milton and Kevin, as we see the duality of the families and how both people are mourning here. So first, I'm just gonna ask you, what do you think about Remy at the funeral versus Brian at Kevin's funeral, and then their reaction to the brothers separately blaming them for stuff that it feels like both of them had way more to do with?
Yeah. So while the title of this episode is Casualties of War, I think it should have been retitled in their universe Accountabilities of War. Because as the two, listen, Brian is the father, you're the protector of your son, and that's how it is, day in and day out. And even I think that moment where Brian's ex-wife or girlfriend or whatever she was, Kevin's mom,
Cynthia,
yeah. So that look said it all. You were supposed to protect our son. And then when you talk about Robin Hood from the hood, yeah, everybody, even his own declaration of protecting everybody, and it's all on him. Them deflecting to the brothers was a normal reaction. I think everybody's under a lot of the stress of everything.
Exactly.
But yeah, it definitely needed to be a measure of accountability of these folks, and we did see that get ironed out in this episode. Folks trying to hold these folks accountable, and to see what their reactions were. T falling in the grave was wild. Honestly, if we get to talk to Da Vinci again, that's my first question. Did you fall in that grave? Because
nah, he did not. No, they put him in. Come on, dog. Like nah. Anybody who's ever seen someone personally fall in the grave, they just don't lay there. That shit hurt. Like,
it's super dangerous.
That ain't feeling.
You ain't always gonna fall directly in it. Like, this isn't pro wrestling here. You're not gonna fall perfectly in the casket.
Falling in the grave, a wide open grave like that, is like wrestling with Bill Goldberg. It's a good chance you're gonna get fucked up. Like, it's a good chance you're gonna get messed up.
It's a wild scene for them to put in there too. I was like, really? Like, that's what we doing out here? I already knew we was in for a wild episode on that note.
What did you think just about Remy's response to Meech? Because I think that was highly important here. He almost made it seem like Meech is the one who pulled the trigger, like Glock and MKs didn't shoot up his whole neighborhood.
Yeah, he
And
can
what do you
even.
think about Claude's reaction to him in that moment, as we see what happens later on in the episode between them two?
It's a lot to really make it. I don't know when I exactly want to get into it, but I agree to your point that like him looking at Meech was kind of like, sir, I understand you're upset, but
Exactly.
you're going to need a moment to kind of reel that back to really understand that this is definitely on you. And even if you wanted to deflect to somebody, you might want to talk to the folks who are supposed to be keeping lookout in your base.
Hey.
The fact that they just strode in all willy-nilly, that ain't got nothing to do with Meech. Meech gave you the heads up. He tried to join forces with you. That's on you, sir. And his comment of now it's on site, I was like, on site for what? What's the problem?
You still killed T. Washington. It's been on site with Meech this entire time. Not only that, this is the first last episode was the first time I've ever seen a shootout where niggas had people on the roof and the niggas on the roof did nothing. Like nothing. Like I think a commenter brought it up in the section saying like, how didn't they see any of this coming? It's very weird there. But again, so was Remy's response along with Brad's response. But next up is Meech and the crew as they mourn the passing of Rip. Here, again, not much to talk about here. This is just Meech talking about his plans for Techwood and the MKs. And again, he brought it up last episode of playing them against one another here. What did you think about? I know Rip wasn't, I'm gonna say a big character, but something that we didn't get a lot of. We were expecting more from him before his death here. What do you think about just them bringing that up and then Meech immediately going back to business? Like, hey, we need to do this to survive here, to play them against one another so we can move both of them off the board.
Yeah, I think Rick plays there's a word for this, but essentially he plays a character in terms of character building for another character. Rick can be attributed to one, why Meech loves music.
Yep.
How he's going to treat his artists going forward. And you can even go as far as saying why the reason he parties the way he does. That's something we haven't got to tap into yet. Yeah, I know he's in Magic City, but it's business. We haven't seen him throw those granular parties yet. And you have to start to say, when do we turn the chapter to really knowing the big Meech that we know? And as well as when do we get to turn the chapter to see the T that we know? Because as of right now, it looks very apparent that Meech was the one that made the right calls, that called the right shots, that was more of the business savvy, the numbers person, the least reckless person. And now we're starting to see T question things about Meech. But ultimately, these roles flip because Party Boy Meech comes out, but T gets on the phone a lot more. So like there's still little things that haven't really been ironed out yet to the adult versions of these characters we know. And I think this, going back to Rip here, I think Rip just is going to be that check to say, oh, that's why he's that, or that's why he's that. And I think even yourself saying, I think Rip could be like Baby Blue Da Vinci.
I ain't saying he was Blue Da Vinci. I'm saying like Meech talked about he had talent.
Yeah,
Blue Da Vinci has talent.
And
I wouldn't compare like their careers to one another.
And
granted, they got about the same amount of memorable songs at this point.
Boy, you funny. Or is this like a story of saying Meech had other artists before he only had Blue Da Vinci, but they didn't get to, there's something with Rick that is going to either it's fictional or non-fictional, whatever it's going to be. But I think Rick definitely, even with a small arc, will pay like major dividends into like the character building of it until we ultimately get to Big Meech.
Yeah. So next, I'll combine the next two scenes together. First is the brothers just talking about the violence, and T is very adamant that we need to get control of this. Then in the very next scene is T talking with LaWanda about this Henrietta issue and about ending things with her out of fear of losing his kids here. This is an ongoing theme for T in this episode, is he's trying to be like Martin Luther here, where he just wants the peace and he wants to everyone to work together here. What'd you think about Meech's response in a conversation with him and T, and then the way T and LaWanda was talking and his fears coming out?
I think they had enough reminders for them to land to this point. That this was the final straw. So him moving in the way he does, it just makes sense. It's the right response. Appropriate response.
See, I was thinking all too since that, like, now this is a key point of seeing the difference between the way him and Meech move.
Okay.
He went to Atlanta and Meech started an all-out war. And he was like, wait a minute. Like, I didn't come for, like, you didn't tell me it was like this. And Meech doesn't flinch. T, on the other hand, even though they both got kids, it always feels like T has more to lose. And in this episode, it really felt like T feels he has way more to lose than Meech, even though they have the same amount of kids and everything else in that nature.
They actually do have exactly the same amount of things to lose. Yeah, to the T. I mean, they both got little bop joints on the side. They both got baby moms. Like,
well, now Meech done lost his baby mom already. So maybe Meech like, fuck it. Like, yeah, I already lost one. I'm gonna keep on going. And T's just terrified of anything that could happen here. Or it could just be that T thinks it's a smarter business move that, you know, as anyone who's been in the streets will tell you, when the violence is amped up, the work stops moving. Like, that's the last thing you want. But speaking of things being amped up, next up, we get Charles and Lucille. And in this episode, what I loved about the way this began is clearly Charles thinks that song has gotten him over. He think he all back in his good gracious. He done hit Lucille off a couple times, completely not knowing that she was thinking about the doctor, rubbing the doctor's business card as Charles was doing it. But here we get Nicole, because that's the interesting character here. And this is over the next couple of scenes of her deflecting and just ignoring the doctor and knowing that she wants her parents to be back together, but Lucille is very adamant that they're moving on. What did you think about, and not just in this scene, let's talk about for the whole episode, the dynamic in this episode of Lucille, Nicole, and Charles, and how it feels like Nicole and Charles are fighting so hard for them to get back together when Lucille has clearly moved on.
You answer this, because I feel like you're going to have the funniest answer.
No, well, you already know what I think. You already know what I think. Look.
And I want you to eye in on Charles behind Lucille. Lucille is glowing. So the song obviously worked. No. And the way how she veered off that path very quick. Like, you explain this to me. What is happening with the two of them right now? I'll let Lucille, you have this one.
See, it's the problem. This is when we call reading signals wrong. Lucille is glowing. But she thinking about the doctor and the date they got later on.
In the card?
Yeah. She literally started rubbing one out to his business card. Charles don't understand this. The whole time he was making intimate love to his wife, Lucille was fucking the doctor. And Charles was just the dick at the moment to help her think about the doctor. So when he up there cheesing and smiling, thinking everything's fine, Lucille, on the other hand, is thinking, I can't wait till I see the doctor again. Like, we had sex last night. It was amazing, even though it was Charles and it wasn't him. Like, she's paying Charles absolutely no attention. But she's also being honest, which I absolutely love with Lucille. She's letting it be known, I'm not going to lead you on here. She literally told him last episode when he got in that bed, she said, yeah, we can do it. That's fine. But at no point in time did she say, we back together. Charles is getting a little bit of the cookie, meaning like we're in a relationship again. Like, how many men have made that mistake of thinking just because you got some that y'all are in a full-blown relationship? And Lucille like, nah, I just need to get one off right quick. Lucille the nigga in this situation. That's what it is.
It is. I mean, and you know what's sad is that it's not ever to sit here and say that Charles' actions are justified. But for what Charles is fighting for, you know, let's say the holy war in this, trying to get back to being a man in the house, doing the right thing, being right by God. And as he said, I'm gonna put this family together, starting back with me and you. The way how that Christian could soon to be co-pastor deflected one of the main principles of that damn Bible for that damn doctor. The perception of good versus bad here is way off the table. And religion is way out of the window at this rate. It's just crazy to me. So like, I'm not justifying Charles. I can't even say I'm team Charles here, but Lucille is definitely not practicing. Not only what she's preaching and being preached to, but what she may be up in that pulpit having to preach each and every Sunday here, because we don't have the idea of family, which is trash. That's a horrible statement for her to make too. We don't have the idea of family.
But remember though, Lucille wants a divorce. She does not want to be with Charles.
What
like
the
this
Bible
is
say?
Charles. This is the Bible. The Bible is very look here. He broke their vows. At that point, everything is fair game. Like we ain't gonna just forget he was smashing Mabel up against the wall. Like that happened here.
Ain't like Mabel a Christian woman? Never mind.
Huh? Chris Day, hey, Mary Magdalene in the flesh. That's what she is, damn it. But again, I think that's why I love the way they're showing their relationship this year, because they're doing what men do. Is thinking I can make up for the mistake I made in just being extra attentive to it. And Lucille sticking to her guns, because in the end, I don't think it was as much about Charles cheating as he cheated with her friend. Yeah. Do you know women don't get over stuff like that? If Charles would have grabbed a little side jump that Meech threw his way or something, I don't think Lucille would have cared. But Charles slept with Mabel and then brought Mabel into the house repeatedly. Mabel came into that house. So I think at that point, she's just too hurt to move on. And that's where they're at in it. And Charles is just, again, said, I'm fighting for my family. I want to get everything back together. But my brother, are you fighting for a losing cause here? You are like Ukraine. You need support. You need everything to be brought in for this to work for you. And I don't think it's going to work for him at this point. But
yeah.
Next up is T meeting with Henrietta. Now, this is a confrontation that we've seen happen before, and we've seen Henrietta be extremely disrespectful towards T.
Yeah.
What did you just think about the way that she approaches T? Because I think it plays in parallel for T for the way he feels his crew treats him when Meech is around.
Wow. I mean, she's consistent, and she's consistent to the point of intimidation and fear, house rules. So she never does anything to inflict any type of physical punishment of sorts, because she's not shy at by the end of this episode and all the other episodes before this. But yeah, she makes it very clear, like, listen, it's never going to be anything for us. I think it's an overreaction, because if you're a boss, you have to make boss moves. And if you didn't have a better example of having to be in bed with the devil, your dad is a next cop / politician / drug dealer. So understand that, like, and I mean, there's so much to talk about their relationship after this episode, but I mean, like, yeah, it's an overreaction. And I think it's sad to say that this character, very basic weakness is daddy issues, period.
Yes.
So, but yeah, the duality with the Meech and T thing, I didn't even think that. I think that's a brilliant point. You should probably elaborate on that a little bit more.
Well, I think for Henrietta, and she kind of pinpoints it by calling him the court jester.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't take you seriously. Like, nothing about you is serious. But I don't think she gets that perception just off of her knowing T. I think she gets that perception from the way his crew moves around him. And I think that's the weak spot for T, because that's the sore spot. This is a conversation about two people with different forms of family issues. Henrietta has daddy issues. T has brother issues. And she hit him right below the belt where it needed to be hit at. to pinpoint to T, like, you're not even a leader of BMF.
Yeah.
Like you only the leader here because the real man ain't around. She said you're around here calling yourself the king of the D. Pause. But you're just a court gesture. So that's saying like no one takes you seriously. So it makes me wonder, do everybody in Detroit see it that way? If she sees it that way.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean by that, not necessarily just not maybe his crew who tries to reassure him that they're with him, but what happened if the other neighborhoods and other people are like, yeah, Meech is the leader of BMF, not you. Yeah. And just because Meech ain't here, don't change the fact that he's still a leader, which we saw in the last episode. That was the issue with T. The moment he said, Meech, why are you back here?
Yeah. I mean, I could think it could be a little bit of both. I don't think Meech running in, I don't think T running it and Meech being gone has made a weakness within the optics of this crew. And I also think it matters about, I think this only matters to the people it matters. That matters. So like when you talk about her dad had nothing but respect for him. Brian clearly has nothing but respect for him. At the point, I mean, I understand that there's some added events as to why, but
yeah,
Bryant wants T more than he wants Meech. And historically, we also know that this is very true at a point where they wanted Meech bad. But they wanted Meech so that they could get the T, which is the weirdest thing. Or no, they wanted T so they could get the Meech because of the phone stuff. Because they had T dead to rights. You're right.
But they settled for T. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. But
again, that shows the hierarchy that we're talking about here.
True.
Even a government thought it was a hierarchy. Like, again, go back to the doc. They let T talk on the phone for months.
Yeah,
before they did anything to him because they wanted Meech. And here's just another portion of that showing its ugly head for T here. And again, with Henrietta being completely disrespectful and even saying, my goal is to completely break up BMF.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was the key part there. But next up is another person struggling with his crew, and that's Remy.
One other question too. Do you think there's a level of envy out of Henrietta because T has loyalty, power, and respect? And while she has people that fear her, do her folks actually respect her? That's the question, because you see people behind her, but I'm not sure if I call that loyalty. I think they're operating on fear. And
I think
that's why she has to muscle the way she does. That's why she has to go off in the way she does, you know?
I think it's revealed later on in this episode. She is envious of T, but it's not for any of the reasons that you said. It is for the most basic thing in the world. T got a dick and she don't have one. That's what she's envious about. That's it. Her whole envy is the point that he's a man and she's not.
And
go ahead.
I was gonna say Game of Thrones here.
Yep.
Because Daddy done said something.
Am I saying that right now?
Who? Khaleesi?
Cersei?
Oh,
no,
Cersei. Cersei. Yeah, I don't know who you're talking about. Cersei.
She gonna do the same thing?
Exactly. Yeah. But go ahead.
Look, I got some. I'm hyped. I got somebody from Game of Thrones right, because I don't get anybody right except for Ice King. That's the only person I really know. But
not Jon Snow.
Who the hell is Jon Snow?
Next up, please.
Okay, next is Remy and his conversation with Claude. Again, what's important here is that Claude brings up, we've lost soldiers to the MKs. Yeah. We don't have work. We need to partner with BMF. But Remy's hate is so deep for Meech, which still does not make any sense, that he's willing to sacrifice everything, down to the point of him asking Claude, what should I do? Claude says, nigga, just leave. What did you think of?
Wait, he said lead or leave?
I thought he said leave.
I thought he said leave.
Audience, correct us. Maybe he said lead.
That
would be an odd thing to say. Lead. He is leading. He leading you down the wrong path.
Right.
I don't think leading is the issue here.
So obviously Meech reference to Marvel Comics earlier was interesting about Loki and Thor, and I don't even think I would have pulled that analogy here. A little bit of a comic book nerd, but it's entirely true that Loki's whole the whole thing with Loki is that Loki wanted to be the king of Asgard, and Thor never wanted to be so. And you know, there's more to that story and whatnot. But I think with the Remy thing is that, yeah, you're right. Remy has legitimate no reason to hate Meech in the way he does, to the point that he's irrational about the business moves and also just the protection of your entire community. And you're getting advice right here in your ear, and you're just like, nope, nope, nope. Which is why, like, his response was just like, he said, "So, what's your suggestion?" Then Remy laid down his thing of saying like, we need to partner up with other folks that's in the A, not no other Detroit crew, but in the A, and said, okay. And I think it was like, all right, fine. If you're gonna do that, then lead. And I think it was like, yeah, you're leading, but I think it's one of those like snarky, sarcastic moves. Like, okay, cool. If that's what you're gonna do, then do it. Then do it. If that's what we're gonna do, then do it.
Okay.
I think he's willing to see Remy crash and burn on this one. Because now that Remy is clearly operating like with bull eyes, blood in his eyes, and obviously just going to run into the next closest wall. I think he's letting them say, okay, do it, and let's see what happens. It's absolutely one of those like, I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna let you truly understand that the actions and the reactions and the calls and the effects from your decisions that you make now. Because remember, he has no accountability for everything that just happened in Techwood. So now he's like, all right, fine. If that wasn't a clear indication, we're going with your plan. Now let's see what happens.
The number one mistake he makes is saying, we need to partner with another crew in the A, not someone from Detroit. The only other crew in the A that seems to be moving anything is the MKs. And they literally just shot up your projects. And then you're very adamant that you let the MKs in, and that's why you don't want to let Meech in. So again, who are you partnering with here? This is a situation where, again, you have people who are willing to run into a wall to prove a point that no one is asking them to prove.
Yeah.
And that's Remy's issue here. He's trying to prove a point that no one's asking you to prove. You're attempting to make Meech your enemy when it should be the reverse. Meech should want you dead at all costs because you killed someone close to him. He literally didn't do anything to you to have this vitriol, but it's Remy. And I think at this point, it's a displacement. I think at this point, he knows it's his fault. But I need someone to blame. Like, I got to blame somebody for it. And I'm going to blame somebody for it is being Meech. And Claude is the voice of reason here. If Meech got the best work, why are we even fighting who we're teaming up with here? Nigga, we ain't got to team up with you. Nigga, you have supply and demand. You have something I need. That don't mean we cool. I could buy from you and then try to kill you next week. But in the end, I still need it because, again, as every rap song has ever told you, people are only as loyal to you as when they're eating. When they stop eating, that loyalty goes away immediately. And that's the problem that they're going through now, is that everyone's abandoning them. But next up is Brian and Jen, as they're finally having the conversation about Henrietta after Detective Amberson's death here. Now, this whole conversation first starts off with her apologizing about Kevin, saying he's a good kid. But then her questioning about Henry, and Brian finally revealing that Henry is a female, not a male. And then we get the events that you brought up earlier on in this episode. As I'm assuming that's the captain. He ain't Baptiste. So I don't know who this captain is. White Tease? That's what I'm gonna call him. As he comes in and he lets Brian know that because of some odd reason that Brian is fired, not gonna be able to explain that to make it make any sense to me. Like the police don't have the most powerful union in the world. But then he also suspends Jen. Again, something that makes absolutely no sense. But he does it. What do you just think about, one, the captain's reaction to Amberson's death and possibly it being pushed by her father and not necessarily by the actions that happened, and just Jen and Brian's conversation here about Henrietta?
I mean, At this point now, there's no loyalty to Henrietta, so Brian let that big, small, big detail available, which Detective Jen instantly uses it. didn't even let that thing breathe. But I think that Amberson's death, I think there still needs to be more kind of ironed out here. What her father's impact will be, her death, and as I said, they're planning a funeral, so obviously we need to kind of see that emotional toll across the department. How does the department plan to respond to that? Now that Jen gave all the information, they know exactly who to go towards. So we need to kind of see how that all plays out. But I think between the two of them, I mean, Detective Jen and Detective Brian, I mean, maybe that aligns them back together. I mean, they're both out of a job. I mean, granted, no, look, Brian is terminated, but Jen's suspended. But they're both on the couch right now. And to see what their response is, man. I don't think they're going to let Kevin's death just go in vain. And I think Brian, with his actions of kind of going brute force into Henrietta's space, proved that way doesn't work. So maybe it goes back to Jen and say, what can we do? What's our action? What's our plan actions? What's it going to be? But yeah, at this point now, they're rock bottom professionally, and that means a lot for Jen. I don't. It means nothing to Brian. And in fact, this may even make him even more dangerous now.
Yep, because he ate that with no issue.
Yeah, not at all. Didn't care. Here's everything. Yeah, back to the streets. So I don't know. Listen. I got to be honest. I want to see the more street side of Brian. They teased it in the very first episode in the beginning. We've gotten a little bit from this season. We see what he can do when he wants to be Detectives Brian Seagal, and give me a little bit more of that, man. Let's see how he avenge his son. So small scene, but there's definitely so much more that needs to be laid out.
God damn it! I had a good point until you said Brian Seagal. I really did. It's the first thing I think, and it gotta be Out for Justice because this line has been in my head all night. And it's the joke like, anybody seen Bobby Lupo when he was looking for the searching for the crazy dude? Oh my goodness! But since we're here, I want to focus on both of the conclusion of both of these characters in this episode. Next up, we did get Brian as he clearly went after Henrietta with no issue. And then we see him stopped by Blaze of all people. Basically lets him know, like, hey, I know what may have happened, but I'm not going to let you do anything to my kid. Like, in the end, that's still my daughter. Versus with Jen and her having that conversation with her father at the restaurant about Emerson feeling like another a replacement sister to her. And then her dad giving her some of the best advice of the episode about dealing with grief and dealing with problems. And are you willing basically to step into the fire to deal with these issues? What did you just think about the way they closed out both of these characters in this episode? As we see the path that Brian goes down after this tragedy, and we see the path that Jen goes down after the tragedy.
Close them out for this episode, opening up things to come on a different side of them for the rest of this season. So I'm more intrigued because I think we understand their values. Jen with family and how important family is and how far one will go to family, them both establishing how far do you go for the ones you love. And then seeing Brian go back to the streets, the maybe the thing that he always been most comfortable with. And at this point now, you know the saying, man, a dangerous person is a person who has nothing to lose. Doesn't have a job, doesn't have to protect his son. Shit, fuck it. Let's get out there.
Hey. As well let it all go. Because he just at this point. But next up, let's run through a couple of quick things here. Not much to talk about, but we'll get into the ones that are necessary. Next up is T. Terrified with Markeisha. At this point, everybody's dying in T's life here. But Markeisha gives him the best piece of information that he did not have. And that was after he tells her that he tried to go to Henrietta to make a deal, and she spit in his face. And Markeisha brings up Blaze. Go to her father, make that deal. And then he realizes this is the person who Pat and them were talking about already. here. What did you think about this? It's not. I know it's not a lot to talk about here, but this is a big reveal for T that it's somebody above Henrietta to go to.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. One, yes, entirely important for T. He instantly uses it, finds another means of being able to infiltrate her whole network. And it works to his philosophy. The Martin Luther King nonviolent, nonviolent, you know. So he says, like, if I find another way for a peace agreement, this will work. The person who actually runs the thing. So Markeisha, just I think it's more about Markeisha here, showing her use and showing how much she knows about shit. It also says that Boone talks a lot. Like a lot.
It also shows again why they always say behind every great successful man is a successful, powerful woman.
That's
because
right.
Basically, it almost
like Lucille.
Keisha, use a nigga. It comes across that Markeisha ran most of that organization because Boone took all her ideas and ran with them. And I think that's the important part here, as I think Terry's understanding that more and more now, because this is her second time this year being super helpful with information with T. So this is just another point for T to really focus on. Next up is nothing much to talk about. This is just Meech reassuring the troops about what's the next steps they're going to take. Not much at all to talk about here because it's just Meech. Next up, though, after that is Meech and Duffy are stopped by the Red Dogs. The only thing I want to talk about here is this is why, ladies and gentlemen, especially gentlemen, you always have a hoe with you. Because if the first person who's going to peep out cops or issue is going to be that hoe. Because they have the way they have to keep their head on a swivel to make sure everything is safe. Angel kept her head on a swivel here and was like, nah, something ain't right. Slow down. As we see Duffy get pulled over by the Red Dogs. And this is the big return. I think we talked about it 2 episodes ago of when are we going to see the impact of the Red Dogs come back into play here again. And here we see it here coming back into play again. And after asking you what you think about this setup, I'm going to focus on Angel finding out all the rest of the information about the Red Dogs this episode.
Yeah. Duffy being on the run is something that should also make him just as aware of his surroundings here. So and I think at this rate now, the Red Dogs are like Thanos, man. People just disappearing out here and unaccounted for because they're snagging people up. And I think, obviously their motivation is trying to figure out what happened in Techwood. I'm also thinking to myself, like, why do they care? Y'all trying to tear the damn project down anyway.
Just beat the shit out of the people in Techwood in front of the kids. Right? But I think it's because we get to see here just how invincible the Red Dogs think they are.
Yeah.
He unleashed a dog on a Mercedes. Like the dog was going to catch the car.
Hey,
do you know like how cocky that is to say, get him. Nick, they're in an automobile. Unless that dog about to run 100 miles an hour, that's not gonna happen. But again, I think it's just good that we get to see them come back again because the Red Dogs are such an important part of Atlanta's history.
Yeah.
And their over policing is a story that could be told all on its own. But here we see it in the forefront of just how far they go to harassing Duffy and Meech and almost harassing them with no evidence.
Yeah. What?
That's the key part here.
Who's worse, the Red Dogs or the Gun Trace Task Force?
Look here. It's the Gun Trace Task Force was like beating niggas in Jordans. Like, I'm never gonna be okay with that. You can whoop my ass, but you can't whoop my ass in some 7s. Like, I'm gonna be mad as shit at you, Joe.
Hey,
I don't know who's worse because the Red Dogs lasted longer, and the Red Dogs changed their name. The Red Dogs still exist to this day. They're just under a different name. Like that just shows you just how crazy this is here. But again, I did like the scene because we needed to see them because they're a big part of this season and their impact needs to be felt here. And it is felt immediately with Duffy here and Meech here. But
Yeah.
next up is Lucille and Nicole as they have a life talk as Lucille brings Nicole those pregnancy pills.
Hate it had to be my girl Nicole, man. Hate it for her. Hate it for her.
But here is Nicole getting smart with Lucille, letting her know one, the doctor's calling a little much now. What's going on here? And down to Lucille saying, I just don't want you to make the same mistakes I made. We've been waiting for like those close daughter and mother moments, and we still have not gotten them this season. But what we're now getting is smart ass Nicole just popping up out of nowhere. Like lying on the phone. We knew from the jump when she got that call when Lucille and Charles was in that kitchen that was a doctor. And
that's a family. It's a family move, though. She didn't do anything wrong. Here, listen.
She did everything wrong.
She last episode had one of the most. I mean, you all on the internet are amazing. I gotta tell you, when we get to watch these early and have to sit on some of these things for as long as we do, this understanding that the moment we saw that scene, we already knew the internet was going to have its way with it.
Yep.
And the fact they brought up Diana, the fact they brought up what's his name from Best Man, whatever his name is,
who from Best Man?
Why is it slipping out of my head?
Tay Diggs?
No.
I'm gonna name the actors. I'm not gonna name the characters. Terrence?
No, not Best Man.
I'm about to say.
Yeah, not Best Man. It come to me in a second. But the fact that people was all, huh? No.
Was it Love Jones? Bill Bellamy? Because he reminded
me. No. Give me a minute. I'll get to it. But obviously, iconic dinner scenes where people blow up. Anyway, now you got me losing my thoughts. Yeah, so after she done did that, it's like, let her have a moment to actually be positive here. She easily could have said, oh, the doctor calling again, and could have made it like a whole thing. But in fact, she decided to lie for the energy and the protection and possibly bringing back the unity of that household. So am I mad at her? No, not at all. Not at all. She did the right thing here. And it obviously this could have got a lot worse, but she did the right thing. Yeah, you got to give her credit where credit's due.
This is a classic case of stay your ass out of grown folks' business. This ain't got shit to do with you. You could tell. You could tell. Lucille, as a black mama, would have whooped her ass if she'd have found out that you telling people calling for me they got the wrong number. Because you gonna have the wrong ass after I'm finished whooping it. Because you done lost your mind. You ain't got no business telling people that. And I did like the point that when Nicole brings up, like, the doctor's been calling a lot lately, and Lucille went immediately to black mama mode and grabbed that face like, oh, you getting disrespectful to me. I don't give a fuck how much my baby called here. You let me know every time he calls on that damn phone. But again, this is a situation where I think Charles is selling an unnecessary image to Nicole that they can get back together. And Lucille is very adamant that is not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like, Charles is in T's room. They ain't even in the same bedroom. Like, don't think like you can interject yourself into this because you want to save something that's already dead. But this is also why you don't stay together for the kids. This is why you're gonna get a divorce. Somebody gotta go. We can't all be under the same roof here.
Yeah.
Like, none of that is positive. You got to be a much older person to be under the same roof. Like, I had that situation at one point in time where it was my mama, my stepdaddy, and my daddy under the same roof.
Yeah.
Like, but you that has to be established where you understand the dynamics. Here, Charles is poisoning Nicole's mind every bit. He probably sneaking in her room. Like, baby, just go ahead and check on your mama. Let her know I'm here. You know how niggas be.
He want her back though. I mean, listen, I ain't saying that this is the right thing to do for the sake of the kids, but I mean, like, we've been through worse things in terms of lies, so why not try to add a little bit of transparency here? She wants the family back together, as she should. And Charles wants the family back together. Lucille doesn't. So I think it is going to bring these moments where she wants to be the way she wants to. She's going to pick her moments to try to be negative towards her mother, because essentially she's probably looking at her mother. I don't think she fully blames her mother, because she knows what her dad did as well too. But she realized that her mom is the reluctant one in terms of like getting this all together. And it took me like all this time while you were talking to think about it. Richard Jones as Mike. And why did we get married?
Why did we get married? He is the most. Him and Steve actually are the most hated black men ever, and it's both of them is thanks to Tyler Perry. Because when Steve put my girl Kimberly Lease out of her own house and moved that light skinned heifer in there, he was absolutely hated for that. And when Richard made Sheila get her big ass on the plane and buy 2 tickets and drive up on that mountain by herself.
Hey, you ain't lying.
People ain't ready for that conversation that he was actually right. But that's another time and another day that we'll have that discussion. Because keep in mind, Sheila lost weight after the fact to get a new man, but wouldn't lose weight to keep her husband. But that's beyond that. We ain't gonna talk about that. Next up is T's conversation with Blaze. The only part of this I want to talk about is Blaze bringing up the complicated nature of his relationship with Henrietta to T.
Yeah.
Of him saying, like, I like the deal. It makes sense. I love that you approach me as a man this way. But family issues carry weight and are way more complicated than necessary here. And I think, again, it's a reflection of T. Saying because T fully understands what he means by that because of T's family relationship being complicated. What do you just think about this quick conversation between Blaze and T?
Yeah, it's just a seasoned man that I know some things, and I think it's just put in perspective. It's professional, it's business being done here. So yeah, I think it's something that T will take and apply to his life at some point. Not this episode, but at some point. Yeah, it's going to help. It's going to be a point for him to refer back to and realize what that meant and how to use it.
And next up is, and then here I'm gonna combine 2 into 1. And this is first with Meech worried about Duffy and worrying about if they can get hit with trafficking across state lines, which is a legitimate concern here. And this is the first time that Angel brings up that Greenie has also disappeared, as we brought up multiple people disappearing because of the red dogs here. But in a later scene, we see the return of Duffy. And we see Angel go out the way, as she tells Meech here, to get the information to find out what happened to Greenie. And she finds out that Greenie has got caught up by the GBI and that he's snitching on Meech for killing Little Mike. Is it Mike or Little Mike? I don't know why I won't put a little in front of his name. I think because I'm black. But killing Mike and how that weighs down everything for Meech. Just what do you think about this whole setup here with, one, Meech being concerned that Duffy may be on a run, and if he's on a run and crossing state lines, we have a bigger issue to worry about here, to Duffy showing back up and him letting Meech know exactly what happened and what the Red Dogs did to him, and then them getting this information that Greenie is one of the informants who's snitching on Meech.
All I think it did was create ideas for Meech.
Yes.
Which is like a weird thing to say. I think it was like, oh shoot, if Duffy's on a run, maybe I may have to do this. I think I think this was at a point where he kind of was exploring all options, considering all that was thrown at him, and realizing that Atlanta may be a little too hot right now, and he's gonna have to make some choices that he typically wouldn't make. So yeah, to me, it just kind of was like him just exploring all of his potential options. That's laid in front of him. We haven't even talked about the HOA stuff yet.
Hey, I was gonna bring it up right here because I didn't want to bring it up beforehand because she was just irritating for no fucking reason here. For anyone who has a HOA, I feel absolutely sorry for you. I know they can be a headache. I live in the older community before HOAs was established, so I don't have one of these things. But I know people with HOAs, and I know that the way this woman is exactly how HOAs operate here. So again, here, let's just talk quickly about. I mean, this is just the funny part of the episode. The whole confrontation with the HOA lady from the beginning, and the point that they took time out of this episode to give a historical breakdown of an HOA was the funniest thing in the world to me. If it's one thing I did not care about or think I cared to know until I got the information, was the history of the HOA. As the HOA lady, as Meech said, is fucking everybody humanly possible coming through her house.
Yeah.
So what did you think about just this whole subplot that feels unnecessary, but still is extremely entertaining of the HOA lady?
That's all, besides them just basically labeling that all the alphabet boys are after them, even the HOA, one that I didn't think anybody actually put on their list. But yeah, because at the same time too, beyond the BMF story, this is sort of a perspective into the Atlanta culture and this understanding that, wow, there was people like Meech running drugs to Atlanta, not condoning this. There was also other bigger issues happening within the community from folks that you wouldn't even think was detrimental to them, including the HOA. You know, most of us in this world pays HOA fees. Most of us. Most of us.
I'm blessed.
Most of us. You can't say you don't, but that considers most. Most of us, sir. So
no, I didn't say most. I just said I'm blessed. They had nothing to do with me.
Yeah, everybody can attest to like, oh yeah, that shit. But understanding like you pay it and you guess you understand the benefits of it, realizing that there was folks like this lady, and it be your own people, messing it all up for you. So yeah.
Look, I know it's some of y'all. If we got viewers in Atlanta, I know some of y'all for y'all 1-bedroom condo paying $800 a month for HOA for them to take your trash out. You lost your motherfucking mind, Show. I fucking wish. Like I've stopped from buying places because of HOAs. I'm like, nigga, who the fuck is like paying for my trash? Would they cut grass? Like, the fuck does an HOA do? That needs to be investigated at this point because it's a racketeering business. No one knows what HOA pays for, but you still pay them niggas every month.
Yeah,
like clockwork. That's crazy.
Like insurance.
Now I know what insurance is for, just in case I hit a nigga. Like, what does HOA do? Like, if I don't cut my grass, do you cut it for me? Clearly not. That's not the case with Meech here.
I mean, yeah, I'm not talking about always just car insurance, but there's other insurance that you pay for, and you just like, and they still fight you to get your benefits. Like, what am I paying for this shit for? You know what I mean?
Life insurance. Life insurance is the biggest scheme in the world for most people.
Yeah, and tickets, tickets, like paying tickets for what? Debt to society? I don't get it.
Tickets? You mean parking tickets or like driving tickets?
Just silly stuff like that, you know.
Oh yeah, I don't pay tickets.
Don't make sense.
I'm sorry, I don't pay tickets. If it's not in the state I live in, you gotta charge into the game. If I get a ticket in out of state, and that could be outside of if I get a ticket in DC, I just wait for that shit. Nope.
You're not gonna try that down south.
Yeah,
they'll come get you down south.
No, they won't, because I owe tickets in Georgia and other places too. Nah, buddy, I just won't drive through those states no more. Like, I'm good. But after that, following next up is T. Here we get to see T again. I think, or for me at least, it came across after Henrietta again challenges him. Here is him rewarding his team, his crew. He rewards them with jackets and basketball tickets, because that's what black people like to be rewarded with, even though there's some cheap ass basketball tickets. And somebody points out, I didn't even know the Palace had that many seats in here. But it's not necessarily about T giving the gifts, it's why T gave the gifts. Do you think, again, this is possibly a play on the point of him attempting to buy a loyalty that he already has? Because he only does this when it's questioned if he's the real leader. And maybe he took this as a way to step up and saying, man, I'm a leader. Look at what I can do for my people.
It's not really quite clear to me. So I will defer to you.
It's equivalent to Joe Biden like canceling student loans for niggas who've been paying student loans for 20 years. It's a situation where I'm doing something for people who are already loyal to me anyway, but I'm doing it because I think it's necessary because other people are questioning if these people are loyal to me.
Yeah.
So, in other words, that I think he is completely shook with that conversation between him and Henrietta. And this was
Okay.
a way to say, I'm a boss. Like, I can do this for my people. I can buy you this. I can make sure we fly. I can make sure you can get a nice night out and it all be on me. But is it necessary to do it? Is what I'm saying. Or
Yeah.
it's just this T trying to establish the point that I am the leader of this area here at BMF.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I also think too, like, everybody suffers some level of loss. So if this is way to kind of boost morale, I'm not mad at that either.
Oh no,
If that's
no,
how it is.
I'm mad at the cheap tickets, but I'm not mad at the jackets. Like those are starter jackets. Anybody from the late 80s, early 90s, them
Yeah.
jokes was a meatball to get them jokes, man. Them jokes was no joke to get a
Yeah.
starter jacket.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
next up is a conversation between Claude and Meech. He is very interested here with this conversation as Meech lays out the plan, down to almost reassuring Claude, like, nah, we will be partners forever, be partners.
Yeah.
But he lets it know that Remy is reckless and he's the problem here. What did you just think about just even Claude being willing to have this conversation with Meech, knowing that at this point he's turning his back on someone who's been his friend forever?
I think it goes back again to the realization that there are bigger things than just ego here.
Mm-hmm.
It does look shady because that's your boy since the sandbox, but I mean, he's unhinged and he's tried to really tap in with him a few times. And I think he's trying to find an alternate way. Maybe feel like I can go around the back and facilitate this in a way that could, work out. But it's a risk. It's all a risk. And that's every to be honest, everyone's taking risks right now. Everybody's trying to figure out ways to get through to one another to kind of, get back to the peace, get back to the money, because there's no money being made right now with all the violence happening and with the red dogs there. So I'm not so mad at it in a way. Like, granted, it looks hella shady, but like, what can you do, man? Otherwise, you have and matter of fact, you could be the next person that gets got, because at the end of the day, you all aren't equipped for what the MKs could do. That's how I look at it.
Exactly. I think that's
So,
the key element here is Claude understands at this point, if he doesn't reach out to Meech, it's a chance they won't survive.
yeah.
Like it's really pointing out to Remy, they don't have any work. You're losing soldiers every day. And Meech's deal sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It's almost like a lifeline is being put out there that Remy's not willing to accept because of his ego.
Yeah.
So, and this situation, Claude has no. I think the thing is, though, do you weigh your friendship versus the survival of your crew?
Right.
Like, which is more important here? And I think Claude has laid down, like, in the end, my boy can be mad at me, but I'm going to do what's best for everyone involved.
Yeah.
And this is a deal that's best for everyone involved. But speaking of people making deals and trying to do the deals for best for everyone involved, next we get the conversation we've been waiting this entire season for. And that is the breakdown between Blaze and Henrietta.
Yeah.
This scene lays out all their problems. And all of them tend to focus that Henrietta thinks that because she's not a man, that Blaze has an issue with her. While Blaze pinpoint lets her know, I raised a young lady, a smart one, and you're being reckless, and your recklessness is causing us problems in this business. Down to him telling her, your cover's gone because of all the actions that you've taken. What did you think about this whole meeting between the two? And how Blaze basically lets her know, like, in the end, you're gonna take this deal with Terry because that's the best for business.
I mean, in the sensitivity of the times, this is exactly how the conversation should have been, because like
Mhm.
we've come far in society. So this obviously comes off as very misogynistic. But like he says, like, no, I didn't want a boy. I raised the lady. I raised you to be the smartest person in the room, and look how
Mhm.
you're being. So the daddy and it's an interesting thing because like, and again, all fair sensitivity here, is Henrietta, um going through as a as queer, and more of
Mhm.
as a dom than feminine, because to appease her dad, who she thought her dad wanted a boy,
Yep.
which
Mhm.
only to find out that that's not actually true. So what happens here? Were you going off of a notion that was never accurate? And now that you
Mm.
got clarity about it, and your dad's telling you like what it is, like, no, 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 it's not that. I want you're a woman, and it basically said that no, I wanted you to be a beautiful woman, commands the room, smartest person in the room, and that's not what you are right now.
Mhm.
It's interesting because even in that scene, it didn't feel as harsh as it was, but Dan was those some powerful words that came out of his mouth, or words that
Mhm.
definitely hurt. I
Yeah.
don't know. I gotta get that scene a couple of more times, but like, I just think now the misconception of what Henry thought her dad wanted is wrong, and how does that affect Henrietta going forward? Is there a time?
Mm.
What did you think is the real question here?
This whole scene broke down Henrietta's insecurities
Yeah,
because if he's never verbalized that he wanted a boy, you just took it as he didn't give you the opportunities you thought you were supposed to have because you wasn't a boy.
yeah,
When he didn't do it because that's not what he wanted for you at all. So Blaze wanted her to be Markeisha. That's what
yeah,
Markeisha is, the smartest person in the room,
yeah,
command the presence of a room, and run everything. That's what he wanted. But Henrietta is stuck in this thing of just believing that being male makes you tough. So it
yeah,
comes across as I'm questioning if Henrietta has an identity crisis
yeah, yeah, yeah,
because you're put on this facade of being this person because this is who you thought your dad wanted. And he's saying, none of that's ever been important to me. So
yeah.
then it becomes your reaction to him, but it's only bringing your own mess into it. So I
Mhm.
think that's a very interesting dynamic to show on television because it's one that's not talked about enough. Of at times it's not your parents' expectations that weighs
Yeah,
you down. It's you assuming what their expectations are that weigh you down. And that's what's going on with Henrietta here because they constantly go back and forth about the business. It's
yeah,
multiple times he's saying, I've been protecting you. Like none of this would happen if I didn't protect you. And yet she still feels the need to throw her dick on the table and be like, don't get involved in my business.
yeah,
And for him to have to say, you wouldn't have a business without me.
yeah,
Like that is a poignant line here. Again, that's what I said. This was the conversation didn't seem disrespectful, but it was a lot of truths being talked about. And all of them was pointed back at Henrietta, and she didn't have an answer to it. Her
yeah,
answer was being the hot-headed kid that she is.
yeah, yeah. I
So I think
firmly agree.
that's going to be the good part going forward, or the interesting part going forward is going to be when he ends that conversation with, "You need to reach out to T and take that deal,"
Yeah, yeah,
because I don't know if he's going to give her much leeway of thinking that I'm going to give you the option not to take that deal after I told you you will take that deal. So
yeah,
that's good. That's going to be interesting moving forward to see exactly how that plays out. But I think we already talked about it. Next up was Angel getting information about the GBI and about Greeny and that he's snitching. We already talked
yeah,
about that. We talked. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah. Oh well, I guess the only thing is, I mean, the matter of how she did it. She still works the club very effectively. Still has her customers. She's very resourceful in her
She got
clientele.
that nigga to bust in a suit in a strip club.
Yeah, not to mention too, she also
Nasty work.
detailed that she used to take people back, and
Oh,
she said,
that's
"I
not
no longer
surprising.
do that because I'm making my own money."
Bitch, I'm sorry. Where?
So I mean, you
In a strip club?
listen. Let's not forget that Meech says now you're going to make your own money because you're not working under Greenie's jurisdiction.
Ain't
That
anymore.
means
Yeah.
Greenie legitimately had these women in and out of the club hustling.
So that means she could be her own hoe now. So you really should be like going back to the room. Like, why would you cut your profit margin down? That makes no sense.
Because she got a man now, man. She trying to level up. She trying to do it the right way. The point I take from this is that she's capable of doing it. So
I mean, again, she got that dude off in the strip club in a suit.
yeah.
Ain't nothing that good. I'm sorry. It ain't happening. That's nasty work. Absolute nasty work. We already talked about Jen visiting her father in a restaurant and the advice we give. We already talked about Duffy and him coming back around as we find out that Greenie blamed everything on Meech, and that's why the GBI are now looking for Meech. But here was the big reveal that we've been waiting for this entire season, and that is Meech saying, maybe it's time for me to go to St. Louis. And we already have a setup down there. You've been talking about this, and you've been hinted towards like, hey, we're gonna get down there sometime this season. What do you think about now with this being possibly the last episode for a while in ATL, and now we're going to go down to St. Louis as they build up BMF there?
Yeah, I'm interested to see the aesthetic that they bring with it, how much history we get to it. People know St. Louis, I guess. I guess people only know Nelly.
Who?
Maybe just
else?
Nelly and the Saint
Lunatic?
Lunatic. That's about it.
Murphy Lee.
And Randy Orton. That's it.
Randy Orton from St. Louis?
Yes. Yes.
Didn't you know that? I knew the St. Lunatics and Mark McGuire.
Mark McGuire may not be from St. Louis, but he certainly had a good career there.
The Cardinals. So, hey. And Kurt Warner.
So Torrey Holt
Warner's from St. Louis. That's what I said, Kurt Warner. Like Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk.
Okay,
Rams. Jim Everett.
I'm just curious to see what they're going to do for St. Louis. Would just be interesting. I'm not to say I'm like the most thrilled about it, but we'll see what they can do. I'll stay optimistic for it for right now.
I think it leaves the door wide open to be way more creative because people don't know much about the history of St. Louis. Like we all knew about Atlanta. Everybody knows about Atlanta.
Yeah.
But here, as they go to St. Louis, will we get Nelly showing up on BMF? Like, you got to get a famous person from St. Louis to show up. Who else is famous from St. Louis that we don't know about? And just to talk about the way that market was booming at this point in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Like, and I know one thing for sure, St. Louis ain't no joke. So I think that's going to be an interesting part to see because this is part of the culture that a lot of people aren't aware of what BMF possibly did there.
Yeah. So again, I don't know if you're getting ready to wrap this up, but there's definitely potential. Yeah. There's potential in St. Louis, so we can kind of see how that plays out. But again, I think Meech has been exploring not only just the business, expanding the business, but also I think there's means of him potentially getting out of town because of what is to come and not knowing how to handle the Red Dolls HOA and everybody else that got letters attached to him. So we'll see.
And that was the next conversation, is because this is when Meech lets his crew know that he's not abandoning them, but he needs to move on. And as Duffy points out, like Meech should be back when the heat is down. But what the key part to talk about here is Angel's response. When Meech says, when she asks, can she go with him? He says, I'm not taking anybody with me. And Angel says, don't expect me to wait on you. Glock out this junk, basically giving out bags. And Meech looking at her and saying, well, fuck you. I'm no longer loyal to you. You got to find another place to live. One, We know women do it all the time. What do you think about Angel just jumping out there for no apparent reason?
Unpopular
Instead of being
opinion.
truthful about her feelings, because that's what it is. It's her feelings were hurt more than anything else. I don't think she meant any of that with Glock, but it was the point that she couldn't go with Meech.
Yeah, that's it. I don't got nothing else to say. That's exactly my statement. Unpopular opinion, but this very common. She reacted here. She didn't mean it.
Yeah. No,
she didn't mean it at all.
She wanted to get a reaction from him.
Yeah.
And Meech reacted unlike most men do, with logic. And it threw her off. And then you can tell by the look on her face, that's not what she expected. She wanted him to say, baby, come with me and you will be fine.
Yeah.
That's what she wanted.
City boys be up.
Hey. I mean, what you expect? I mean, women out this junk selling wolf tickets, you got to call them on it the moment they sell it.
Yeah. I ain't.
You want to cry in this Toyota or this Maybach? Now she back to a Toyota. You crying that Toyota all day, every day. But yeah, that was just to think about him breaking it down to the crew and about letting them know about we're moving operations to St. Louis. We got things already set up out there, but also reassuring them like, man, I'm not abandoning y'all. I don't need you to think that. And y'all still got work to do. Y'all still got work to move. Nothing needs to stop here. But until the heat dies down on me, I need to leave this situation here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And him not going back to Detroit, which is very interesting also.
Yep.
Agreed. As we just had T last episode ask, were you coming back to Detroit? And Meech chose to stay in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Okay. All of that is very interesting to see exactly how that's going to play out. Yeah. Next up is Tia Marquisha, and we're going to run all of this together. And that is first is Tia Marquisha in the car as he gives her credit for the move on Blaze. Marquisha says, I want to go away on a trip with just me and you. And he basically tells her, well, after my baby is born with my other woman, we'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
And then he takes her to the diner for food when she thought they were going to a 5-star restaurant. We know, I'm confused why he took her to the diner, but we know the way T moves here. And him completely concerned with LaWanda and not Marquisha. Before we get to the actual pregnancy portion of it, what did you think about Marquisha's reaction after she says, I want to go away with you, and him saying, once the baby's born,
she thought she was priority here and she wasn't, and she learned it the hard way. And she tried to be clever by cutting off his phone and pager, thinking she was going to get that time. Listen, I can't be mad at her trying to get that quality time in here, but she got a hard case of reality that she ain't never going to be number one. That is going to be problematic for T. In the light that I'm not sure quite yet, but it's going to be problematic because he always thinks he's going to be able to run back to her. And she's always needed him. It's rare that he's needed her.
Do you think it's more problematic because LaWanda have the baby, or because even though Marquisha has a situation and children with Boone, she still made T the main priority?
Nah, it's the reason I say it is because T needs her now for the first time ever. And now that he needs her and she's not available in the way he likes, that's going to be problematic for her. So, like, yeah, listen, LaWanda having a baby, I got baby Alexis here now, but it's the dynamics has changed, and she's not going to make herself so available because she knows she realizes her benefit here. Marquisha needed him before. She needed to escape from Boone. She wanted that same lifestyle. She probably even wanted some relevance in some of the things she do. But now that it's flipped and now she's not priority, we may see her be spiteful to LaWanda. She's damn sure going to be spiteful to T. But the dynamics change, and we're going to see how that plays out.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, we're going to throw all of this in here to kind of come close to closing out this episode. And that is, first, Lucille goes on a date with the doctor. They dance. For some odd reason, Nicole calls the doctor because LaWanda goes into labor, and that's the doctor that you call to help out. And
makes sense to me.
In 3 minutes, wherever they must have been out to eat somewhere extremely close. Because in 3 minutes, they have arrived back home to help deliver the baby. And just as they're helping deliver the baby, Charles comes through the door, wondering what the hell is going on, what the doctor's doing in my house. Then after the baby is born, T shows up. LaWanda's mad that T is with the woman that he's been with this entire time and bought a house for. And then Nicole goes upstairs to pop a pill, it seems like. What do you think about this whole dynamic around this baby being born? And I'm gonna say it, and everyone's overreaction after the fact.
The biggest thing to take from this is that the cops do not show up to time. The ambulance, the cops.
It's a black neighborhood.
It's a black neighborhood. So you can talk about all that. You can talk about all that time you want and how that may not make sense. What did make sense is how long it took for the cops to come and the ambulance to come last. The baby was already there. There had been fights. There had been arguments. There had been beefs. There had been spitefulness.
Hey, they did everything.
Dinner. They did everything. They done watched the episode of the Jeffersons.
Everything.
You're right. Charles made another song. And LaWanda pregnant again. And now they showed up. I will think. Listen, look, Nicole calling him makes sense because she's young, so she doesn't know no better because he's a doctor, so he does everything. There's adults that still think that every doctor does everything. There's also people who don't go to doctors at all.
Those adults are idiots.
There's also adults though who don't go to doctors at all, so they definitely can't be talking here.
Oh, because they don't trust the government.
Talking or thinking.
So this makes Jesus.
It makes sense that she responded the way she did. Charles coming in, peeping the scene, everybody showing up at a coincidental time. I'm not mad at it. It's television at this rate.
It's television. It's expected. Yeah. It's expected. Down to the doctor saying, "Hey, son, just go ahead and step away." And Charles pulling, "Come on, T, just step away with me. He's not your son." Like, I don't think he meant it that way. I think he just meant like, don't stress out the mama after she just had a baby. Like that. Yeah. That's all that is here.
Yeah.
Like, and the code didn't even come back in time with the hot towels for the baby to be born. So it's so many questions here.
Yeah, but the only thing you can make is Nicole thought this was a move that could have possibly be bringing the family together, and in fact, it only caused more issues. So Nicole's learning on the fly. Yeah. She's trying to figure out how to put the family together, and things ain't working the way she thought it would. So can't judge her, man. She's trying. She's trying.
Because if anybody saw Lucille's face when he was delivering that baby, she got a little moist right there on the spot. I'm telling you, that was it for Charles right there when she saw that baby being delivered. I think it took away all excitement or any chance that he had left. Next up is the last meet between Meech and Claude, as he lets him know like he's going out of town, but letting Claude know you need to step up to be the leader here.
Yeah.
And get everything in order. And that, again, as Meech has constantly said this episode, I'm not abandoning you. And in the final scene we get, and it's a play on the scene we got before when Henrietta was talking to her dad, and one of her soldiers brings up, did you see the look between Dez and T? And she takes that as meaning that Dez is working with T, and she proceeds to do the most reckless, where the fuck did she get a flamethrower from? It's the early 90s. Where the fuck are these things readily? Elon did not make this one yet. How the hell did she get a flamethrower? That's what I need to know. And why? That is not even a proficient way to kill somebody. I hate to, for anyone out there, for anybody out here who's thinking that would be a dope way to take out somebody, it is not a good way to. There's no need to. Television. It ain't even overkill. It's stupid to take someone out with a flamethrower.
It's television. I mean, you could think that deep if you want. All I saw was just them showing a way of just showing just how unhinged she is and how demonic she is. And now that she's mad because daddy issues, and daddy didn't want a boy, he wanted a girl, and he didn't just want a girl, he wanted a princess. He wanted Ariel. He wanted Jasmine. He ended up getting Butch. So she says, fine, I'm Duke Nukem. Here's a flamethrower. So be it.
Not Henrietta singing A Whole New World. Who hit the flamethrower? Oh man. But what are your final thoughts on episode 6, Casualties of War?
It's a good episode, and I'm just definitely more interested to see what's going to happen with our detectives going forward. They start a new arc, a new chapter in their story, and I need to see the Amberson death mean more.
Yes.
Curious to see what happens in St. Louis. And Angel, we're gonna see how Angel somehow flips back. Without a doubt, she will try her hand. She will try to come back. It's a mistake. Honestly, we've all been reactive in situations and then think before we talk. So that's all she did here. She not going to. First of all, if she did go to, what's his name?
Glock.
He would kill her. Yeah, Glock would kill her.
He would. Oh no, he wouldn't kill her, but she'd be back there being a hoe.
One or the other. Just one or the other. You're not getting a seat at the table.
Yeah, I'm about to say, Meech made you feel important. Nah, we gonna put you in a hoe's place.
Yeah,
you better go out this and shake some ass and do whatever you got to do.
Yeah,
and Glock gonna take 90% because that's just the way that works here. But again, that's what I'm very interested to see is how it works with Meech in St. Louis, and if we get the history of St. Louis and just get to see a different environment from Atlanta that we all know. So I'm very interested to see how that moves moving forward, and Blaze and Henrietta's relationship.
Yep.
Because eventually he got to put his foot down, and we got to wonder how that's going to work when he does that. Along with, as you brought up, the detectives, and now that Henrietta is number one on their target list, and Henrietta does not hide. I'm wondering exactly what's going to move forward with them in that relationship. But it's been episode 6 of season 3 of BMF. Do all the YouTube stuff that you're supposed to do. Smash that like button. Comment and subscribe. Let us know what you think about Henrietta and Blaze. Let us know what you think about Terry, and if he's overcompensating because he's also worried that people view him the way that Henrietta states that people view him. Let us know about Lucille and Charles, and should he just hang it up and move forward and let that woman live her beautiful life with her new Dr. Boo. And then let us know about the love triangle between Terry, Markeisha, and Lawanda, and if the baby is going to overly complicate that situation. Did I hit everything? I think I did. I'm not 100% sure though. There we go.
That's it.
You close it out because I'm.
I mean, most of the time people just say stuff. Okay, bye, I guess. We'll see y'all back next week, folks.